Hey, what's going on everybody? Marvin here, your favorite millennial slacker. Welcome back to another video. So I've made many mistakes since I started selling on Amazon. Some mistakes that I didn't even know were mistakes until I learned the hard way later on. So in this video, I'm going to break down 3 things that I wish I knew when I started selling on Amazon. And before we get into it, make sure to stay until the end of the video where I'm going to tell you the third thing that I wish that I knew, which is probably the biggest mistake that I made, and chances are you're probably making that same mistake right now. Also, make sure to like the video and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Let's get into it. So the first thing that I wish that I knew was to have all of my business expenses on one account, one card. Now this may seem silly now, but back when I first started, I didn't have the slightest clue of how to structure my business. And I was also just starting to do this as just a way to make a little side income, not really taking it super serious, thinking that I could actually create a business from it. So with that mindset, I didn't really take the time to really think about the consequences of commingling my business expenses with my personal expenses. Once I started making a little more money and I was like, oh man, I'm actually gonna have to file taxes on this, I went and got a separate business account just for my business. Luckily, this was during my arbitrage days, so it wasn't commingled with my wholesale orders or anything like that once I got into wholesale. But for sure, a big no-no in this business and any business that you do is do not mix personal expenses with business expenses. You want all of your business expenses as far as purchasing inventory, paying for software, and as well as getting your payments into one account, the payments that Amazon's giving you every 2 weeks. If you do follow in my footsteps and make the same exact mistake, then come tax season, it's gonna be a complete nightmare trying to arrange everything for your accountant. And also, if for some reason you get audited, that's gonna be a complete other headache that you're gonna have to deal with. That's gonna be very difficult for you to trace all of your expenses. So learn from me. One bank account, one card. Now the second thing that I wish that I knew was to not do something that I like to call category jumping. Now category jumping is just when you start looking for wholesale suppliers. Let's say you're gonna start looking into the toys and games category, and then you get distracted and you start looking into pet supplies, and then an hour later you start looking into topicals and you start looking for suppliers in that category. This is what I call category jumping. I don't know if anybody else has ever called it that, but I call it category jumping. And at face value, it doesn't seem like a very big deal, but this isn't the best strategy to follow when you are trying to really find those good suppliers for your wholesale business. I think the best way to tackle this is to dive deep into one category for a set amount of time. So for example, you set the amount of time that you want to look into one category. So let's say you take it one day at a time. So today I'm going to look for only video game suppliers or grocery suppliers. And then tomorrow I'm going to look for topical suppliers. Or this week I'm only going to look for supplement suppliers. Or this week I'm only going to look for electronic suppliers. The reason this works so well is because when you do start looking for suppliers, the easiest ones to find usually aren't the best. So if you take time to really dive deep into one category, you're going to find suppliers that normally people wouldn't find because they didn't take the time to really search deep into that one category. So this is a good way to weed out the suppliers that we don't want and find the ones that we're really looking for. Now, I'm not saying to stick to one niche, and I have a video coming out about that later on, but what I'm saying is for a set amount of time, whether that's a day, couple days, a week, stick to one category and then you move on to another category. Now this third one is probably the biggest mistake that I made, and it's also going to require the biggest explanation, and that is to not focus too much on finding more and more suppliers. Now let me explain what I mean. I've said in the past that wholesale is a numbers game, and it 100% is a numbers game. With that being said, you don't want to only focus on putting the numbers in, because then you're going to possibly blow past a good supplier. So although you do have to find more and more suppliers, to find one that you really want to work with that has good products that you're looking for, if you're only focused on, you look at them at face value, you scan their list, and then you move past them if they don't have what you want, you're really going to miss out on some good suppliers that you could potentially have at your fingertips and you just let slip away. So let me break this down a little bit more. So let's say you find a supplier, you scan their list and they don't have anything that you want to buy that's in your price range or that's profitable. So you just move on, right? Chances are you've done this in the past, or you're currently doing this, because I know I was doing this in the very beginning. This is a mistake. But if you would have taken the time to talk to them and asked the right questions, you would have known to get on their email list or to ask if they have any deals, closeouts, or specials going on right now that you could take advantage of. Or if you knew how to negotiate properly, you could have gotten a 10 to 15% discount on a product because they do have a lot of room to negotiate. But if you only take them at face value and scan the list and move on, You'll never know that. I know I was guilty of doing this in the very beginning, and I would just do that. I would just scan a list and then I would move on. But then when it really hit me that I was making a huge mistake was when I recontacted an old supplier that I had already forgotten about, that I already scanned their list and it wasn't good. I recontacted the supplier, I called them again, started talking to them more, asking them more questions, and then what I found out was that the majority of their products aren't even on their list. They either send them out on an email list or you can talk to them over the phone and see what products they have to offer. And then my sales rep told me that they work with some of the biggest manufacturers within that particular category, and if I'm searching for a specific product, they can most likely get it for me. So far, after I have been able to contact them more and talk to them more, now they're looking more like a good supplier, even though I initially thought they didn't have much to offer. So literally that day, that same day that I recontacted them, that supplier that I've forgotten about because I thought they didn't have anything to offer, I placed a $5,000 order with them at a 31% ROI. Now I would have placed a larger order, but at the time my business didn't have the money it has today. So a $5,000 order was a big order for me back then. And at a 31% return, it's fantastic, especially after I thought they didn't have anything to offer and their list didn't have any profitable products. That's why it's so important to get on your supplier's email list, talk to them, know how to negotiate, and know the questions to ask to see if you have a good supplier on your hands. So make sure you don't make the same mistake I did and just blow past the suppliers that could potentially have a lot to offer you. And if you've made these same mistakes, don't feel bad. I've made tons and tons of mistakes along my way, but I think that's why my course is so valuable to my students, because they learn from all of my mistakes so that they don't have to make them and they can just focus on what works well, what gets them sales, what gets them more profitable wholesale accounts. All right, but those are 3 things that I wish that I knew when I started selling on Amazon, and hopefully these will help you out so you don't make those same mistakes that I did. Now, if you want to know if selling on Amazon is still a good business model in 2019, then you're going to want to watch the video on the screen. I'll see you guys in the next one.